You're watching Business World Live. I'm Danie Laurel. Let's take a quick peek at how trading closed today. You can see on my Bloomberg terminal, Philippine Stock Exchange Index erased an earlier loss, which was as much as 1.1%. That's as the heavyweight SM Investments rebounded towards the end of trading. Our bellwether index did end the day up. That's up by 0.1%, closing at 6814.67. Meanwhile, in SM Investments, as I mentioned, was actually up by 2.5%. You can see a sort of U-shaped trading pattern here throughout Tuesday. Now, recall that so many things happened to move trades negatively, especially at the open this morning. There was the biggest increase in coronavirus cases since November reported, and of course, that statement by Malacanang yesterday that the virus curves will not be eased further without the rollout of vaccines, which still is facing some delays. Let's take a quick peek at the sectors here to be watching out for. Or to check in on this morning, you can see financials, the biggest drag on the index, down by close to 1%, followed by industrials and properties. Holding firms, the only one that is actually in the green, that's up by 1.2%. Now, speaking of financials, I'm going to check in on that as a specific sector that we need to look at today, especially after S&P Global Ratings, we had reported that this morning, had said that it would be a long road to recovery for the banks. They even mentioned that the non-performing loans might rise further to 6% in 2021. That's from 3.6% last year. And they said they do not expect the industry to reach pre-pandemic financial performance until 2023. Now, very interestingly, you can see our CBC trading or closing flat today, and this on the back of them having also reported earnings. They reported a 7.4% drop in 2020 profit. That's as, of course, they booked higher impairment losses just as the other banks. So their net income came in at 5 billion pesos, down 7.4%, but they did say they booked 2.5 times higher impairment losses. That was 9.3 billion pesos worth of impairment losses. Interestingly, though, their net interest income did rise double digits. That's up by 18% on what they say low funding costs. Another thing they're looking at is timing of a planned benchmark size foreign currency senior note issuance, and they did mention they still have enough liquidity and capital buffers amid a challenging 2021. Another one to be watching out for here is Security Bank. This is their report, and this was already reported by them earlier on, that Kurong Sri will be infusing 3 billion pesos in SB Finance. Kurong Sri, of course, is part of Thailand's Bank of Ayudhya, and they will be financing, this is SB Finance, will be issuing 25.85 million shares. You can see Security Bank, actually the only one or one of the few opening in the green or closing in the green for those banking stocks, up by 0.7%. And finally, the big stock that we were watching out for this entire day, that is, of course, Telecom. That's as they have already set the Philippine launch in March as they planned. That will be on March 8th. And of course, we were wondering who will be shifting to the third telco as they become operational from March 8th. Let's take a listen to what they are promising.
7 Mbps. So I know it seems a little bit lower than the technical audit, no? the report. However, our commitment to government is really 27. We don't want to overpromise. We want to be very honest and transparent with the consumers that we are, at least on 27 Mbps, we are quite confident we will be able to provide that level of service, and we don't want to overpromise that we'll give more.
Okay, that was, of course, Adel Tamano, the Chief Administrative Officer of DITO, together with the Chief Technology Officer, Rodolfo Santiago. Now, aside from this and saying that they will be having at least 27 Mbps, they have also announced that they have signed interconnection deals. Earlier, we had reported that was with PLDT. That means that they will manage a facility that will operate as the primary physical interface for both companies. That will be by end March. And they have also announced that a similar agreement will be happening with with Globe. Now, despite all of this news, however, you can see dito staging a pullback towards the end of trading, trading at 17 pesos and 80 centavos, down by 1.8%. That's of course after it had climbed by as much as 4.9%, the highest level since February 1997. Now, to chat more about this last minute rebound after, of course, a trading day which was mainly selling, we have with us Philstocks Japhet Tantiangco. Good morning, Japhet, and welcome.
Good afternoon, Ma'am Danie. My pleasure to be on your show.
Sorry, Japhet, good afternoon na pala. It feels like the morning. Okay, let's take a step back and talk about the performance of the trading day. Quite surprising here because there was so much negativity, and we were expecting actually the bourse to open in the red, which it did, and throughout the trading day was in the red, and something seemed to save it, which was SM. What's going on here? Is this just a temporary upswing?
Well, if you're going to look at the if you're going to look at the market's movement today, it's solely caused by bargain hunting. And it's a bargain hunting primarily on the conglomerates, particularly on SM. Now, today's trading did form what you call a hammer candlestick. So moving forward, at least over the short run, we may still see more bargain hunting, which would push the local market higher. But over the medium to long term, we're still seeing a downward bias for the local market, and this is because of the persisting issues today. First, you have again just last night you have President Duterte who's disapproving the shift of the entire Philippines to MGCQ. And with this, of course, we're still expecting that the economy is going to operate under a limited capacity. Our resources will still be underutilized, so it's going to have a negative impact. It's going to weigh on our economic recovery. Of course, there's also the uncertainty on the vaccines, and then you also have heavy net foreign selling. And this comes amid the rise in the U.S. bond yields as well as the depreciation of the local currency.
Okay, so I have that on my terminal here, the net foreign selling. Now, you mentioned, of course, the statements of President Duterte that we might not be MGCQ after all on March. It depends on the vaccine rollout. Has all of these vaccine delays been priced in na ba? How bad is this indemnity issue for traders?
Well, as far as we can see it, this vaccine issue has not yet been fully priced in, because there's still a lot of uncertainties moving forward. We still don't know. The market is still looking for more clarity as to how the rollout of the vaccine will be. And of course, prior to that, when will the vaccine arrive in the Philippines? That is important because everything else, almost everything else is hinged upon the vaccine. If we won't have this vaccine delivered to us, then most likely our economy will not fully reopen. And if our economy will not fully reopen, of course, it's going to affect our productivity level. We will remain under a limited capacity. At the same time, it's going to affect confidence. Both business and consumer confidence is going to get weighed, are going to get challenged, which in turn is going to affect our consumption and investment spending. So we really need to see more clarity with respect to how and when the vaccine will be rolled out in the country. If we won't see that, then we expect further downside for the market.
Okay, so there's actually still some room to price in some delays here. Now let's move over to Dito Telecom and the stock performance. I mean, this should have been something very exciting for the company, but it appears that they performed quite negatively together, of course, with Globe, which was down by 2.9%. What is going on here? Was that because investors were also profit taking when it comes to Dito?
Well, if you're going to look at Dito's share price performance previously, it has already rallied so much. So their passing of the technical audit, I believe this has already been priced in by the investors. So what the investors are looking forward to now is the developments after this, in particular the commercial launch. How is the commercial launch going to be? How fast is it? And finally, will Dito Telecom really be able to be at par with our current duopoly, which is Globe and PLDT?
Any insight on those agreements, these interconnection agreements? Is this something that you already knew about? Does this affect the competitiveness of Dito in a positive way?
Well, with respect to the interconnectivity, I believe this has already been priced in as well. This is something that Dito or any telecommunication firm will have to do in order to expand its grasp, or in order to to be connected with other telecommunication firms. It is a way to expand your operations. So this is something that's already been seen.
Okay, thank you for those insights. Let's move on to a couple of small stocks that I just wanted to discuss this morning. Big movers here. One is PHA, and you can see on my chart here how it has just soared since the start, since 1 year ago. Although today it's down by close to 8%. This, as they said, or it was announced that they will be, or could be, it's not yet 100% sure, included in the FTSE Global Equity Index series. What does this mean, and why did FTSE single out PHA?
Well, with respect to PHA's share price movement right now, if you're going to look at it, well, one of the reasons is yes, possible inclusion in the FTSE index. Another one is its connection with its Squid Pay. We have yet to look into it, but I believe one of the factors here is PHA's tradability. Although if I'm going to, my advice for this one is you be cautious. We be cautious in trading PHA, because this is still a narrative based stock. We don't really see that fundamental value yet, so you'll have to be cautious. Set your support and resistance levels with this one, and most important, manage your risk by setting a cut loss.
Okay, so still some speculation when it comes to PHA, and the fundamentals still need to catch up there. And
Mm.
finally, another one very interesting today, Cebu Holdings. That's our 23% on a merger with Ayala Land. Of course, what's going to happen here? I mean, they will be ceasing to exist, of course, as they merge with
Mm.
Ayala Land. And what's in it for the current shareholders? I mean, they soared 23%. Is there room to go up still, or will a tender offer delisting actually be detrimental?
Well, we looked at the merger story between CHI and Ayala Land, and based on our initial analysis, CHI will be greatly affected, or CHI's price movement will be greatly affected by Ayala Land's share price movement moving forward. The key here is the exchange ratio between CHI and Ayala Land. So that's going to be 0.19 Ayala Land shares for every one CHI share. Now, if you're going to do the math, you'll need a 5.26 CHI shares in order to have one Ayala Land share. And if you're going to apply that to Ayala Land's closing price right now, which is 38.20, so 38.20 divided by 5.26, that's going to be around 7.20 pesos. So there's still potential, as far as we can see it, there's still potential upside for CHI. Moving forward, as mentioned a while ago, how CHI will perform at least until the merger is complete, or once the conversion happens. Moving forward, and until then, CHI's share price is seen to be dependent on how Ayala Land's share price would perform. Now, on the other side, you have Ayala Land. I believe they're doing this in order to, first is to, of course, have a better control of CHI's assets, which in turn they can use to improve their operations, particularly in the Cebu region. They can use this move in order to strengthen and expand their footprint in the Cebu and the Visayas region, which in turn is going to be helpful for their fundamentals.
Okay, so quite exciting to be watching out for their Ayala Land that closed down by 0.4% at 38 pesos and 20 centavos. Thank you so much for those insights, Japhet Tantiangco from Philstocks.
You're very much welcome.
Here are the other headlines for keeping our eyes on. The Board of Investment has approved startup company CHRG Electric Vehicle Technologies as a new local producer of fast chargers and retrofit kits for electric cars under the Investment Priorities Plan. This means that CHRG will be eligible for tax incentives for introducing new technologies and research and development into the market. The startup invested 3.9 million pesos in its production facility in UP Diliman. They're able to produce 12 fast charger units and more than 200 retrofit kits each year. The BOI said the company is looking to move operations outside of Metro Manila to more cost-effective locations like Bulacan or Rizal. Global manufacturers are looking at exporting electric vehicles to the Philippines, while at least one player, Nissan Philippines, is planning to produce its own electric car this year. The Philippines once again tops a global survey on women in senior management positions. The 2021 business report by Grant Thornton International showed that Pinays took on 48% of senior leadership roles. That's the highest percentage among 29 economies. This is up 5 percentage points from the Philippines' ranking in the previous year. Following the Philippines is South Africa, India, Brazil, and Vietnam. Meanwhile, all countries surveyed except for China, UAE, South Korea, and Japan passed the threshold. The number of women in C-suite roles here in the Philippines has been growing, with the proportion of female CEOs rising 16 percentage points to 38% this year. That's according to the report. Those are the biggest news this trading day, February 23, 2021. Catch Business World live again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. for the market open and 3:15 p.m. for the market close. I'm Danie Laurel, and we are One News.